Welcome back. You're watching Jeremy Carr live for Monday night. Now, in a minute, we'll talk about Prince Harry's balding bonds. But first, there have been reports that the King could be extending an olive branch to his brother Prince Andrew, since the Queen stripped Andrew of all military titles and royal patronages and would no longer allow him to use his HRH title. Relations between the King and his bro are said to have been strained, but there might be about to come a change. His Majesty has supposedly invited Andrew and ex-wife Sarah Ferguson, who's recently receiving treatment for breast cancer, to stay with him in Balmoral ahead of the arrival of other family members. So is this the first in a small amount of steps of Andrew returning to public life? Joining me to discuss this is a legend, TalkTV's royal editor, the Don of royal stuff, Sarah Hewson. Good evening, how are you?
Evening, I'm very well, thanks, Jeremy.
You and I are going to agree on this. He's invited him before the rest of the family. Does that mean he's going home when they arrive?
Well, that used to be the way with Sarah Ferguson, because she would be invited from about 2013. She was invited back to Balmoral with Andrew, but she had to make a hasty exit before Prince Philip got there.
Who hated her with a passion.
He could not stand being in the same room with her. And don't forget, it was at Balmoral that the papers were sitting on the breakfast table with the toe-sucking photographs.
Johnny Bryan, do you remember the old toe-sucking thing?
And that brought around the end of their marriage. After Prince Philip's death, it started to change and she was welcomed back a bit more into the fold. She was at Sandringham this Christmas with Prince Andrew. They actually should have been there a bit earlier. They lost their holiday allocation, as it were, their timeshare, because...
Timeshare, brilliant.
The Balmoral timeshare.
Our timeshare in Balmoral is up, get out.
Because King Charles decided to extend the opening to make a bit more money. So they are there, and they will be spending time with him.
I don't think it's a softening in his approach, and I actually don't think that there is any chance of Prince Andrew, quite rightly, returning to frontline royal duties. But you have a really interesting theory, which I totally agree with, about Charles.
Yeah, I don't think he likes confrontation, and this is his brother. And ultimately, when it comes to family matters, he's quite soft on these things. He doesn't want to see his brother completely ostracised. There's a very big difference between family life and public life. I agree with you. I don't see this as an olive branch that is going to see Andrew being back on public duties and sitting there in Westminster Abbey for the next big Commonwealth Day ceremony or anything of that sort. But when it comes to family, he is still his brother.
I think also, and I would never... I mean, I think Prince Andrew's an idiot, and I'm allowed to say that. I think some of his decisions have been, at best, ludicrous. I agree with you. I used to say to you, did I not, that I think he's probably got as much on them as they've got on him. But I think there is a difference between the private and the public, and maybe in terms of being as ostracised as he has, I think quite rightly publicly, maybe private is different. We did a poll with reports that this is happening. Would you like to see the Duke of York return to frontline duties? 87% no. I'm surprised 13% said yes. PR, Charles shouldn't even try it. Peter, if I had to choose between Harry or Prince Andrew returning to royal duties, I'd take Prince Harry, and it would be a very easy decision. David says he's not being convicted of any wrongdoing. I don't see why he couldn't shake a few hands and cut some ribbons.
But he hasn't cleared his name, though, has he? Because
precisely, Sarah Hewson.
So he hasn't.
And by paying out, he looks ridiculous.
And it brought the royal family into huge disrepute, and it caused huge damage to his mother to have seen him go through this.
This isn't on my questions, but I'm going to just say very quickly, bless the Lionesses losing yesterday. What a fantastic run. Amazing. What did you make, very briefly, of William not going? I thought it was a massive own goal. I'm absolutely amazed that one of them didn't fly to Australia.
I agree with you, and wouldn't it have been fantastic PR if we'd seen William and maybe even Charlotte with him, because we know she's a big fan of the Lionesses. And you do have to ask yourself, if this was the men's team, would we not have seen Prince William as president of the FA or the Prime Minister there?
Yeah, but
because they would have seen it as a PR hit.
You do know the world we live in. Somebody would have said, oh, the Greens, all that fuel to go to Australia.
And he is a bit damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He's going off to New York in September. He's going to Singapore later in November. That will certainly have been consideration should he fly to Australia just for a couple of days.
David, our producer, wants me to talk about Prince Harry's hair going. I don't, frankly, care, do I? Why do I care about his hair? Have a look. Oh, good, he's going bald.
This is him on his recent trip to Asia, so we can see what his hair has been looking like over recent weeks. And then a photo has appeared on Better Up, and a website. That is the mental health startup, and he is the Chief Impact Officer. And here he is, looking a little thicker.
Photoshopped.
Around the barnet. Yes, I asked our very esteemed makeup team what they made of it, and they said definitely Photoshop. It was airbrushing or hairbrushing,
Also,
but it's not very good, is it?
No, it's not. And also slightly ironic, because in Spare, he sort of slagged his brother's bald head off a bit.
Yeah, he said his hair was thinning at an alarming rate and much faster than his. I mean, it's obviously something he's conscious of. It's obviously something that, when they were still talking, they kind of bantered about.
Karma's a bitch, isn't it, really, to be honest?
Yeah.
Really. And even that, in that very, very small way, right? Another one, I said this to you the whole time, he just never gets it right, does he? He just, honestly...
Look, if I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he didn't do the airbrushing and maybe they put the photo up. But, it's pretty obvious.
He covered what he said in the book.